Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to a brand new week of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears tonight and through the yonder of November. Yeah, we're having a great time here as we enter mid-month, and a great guest tonight, Donna D'Ingillo. D'Ingillo. I'll get it in a minute. D'Ingillo. I think that's it. I got her, though. We're going to go into a topic tonight that we've never gone into. The URANTIA Book. The hell is it? We're going to find out. I'm pumped up about it. I love new topics. Love them. And we have all of you here tonight. We have Race Fan in the gold medal position, Tim Mothman in his goatee with the silver, Laura Lobbs with a bronze medal tonight. Hello, Karen in the Woo Train, 5DRG, Evan Walters. How you doing? Evan Walters will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Simon the Likeable, how you doing? Jennifer Patterson, thanks for coming on in. And there's Jimmy Gonzalez and Brown Dwarf. Jessica S. and Paula Fost. Paula Fost will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Paula does not like eye contact. She won't sign if you make eye contact. It's her rule. I had to sign it on a contract. Desert Rat, Toe Tag, Les Paul Holland, good to see you all. Corruption Czar, and Human Carl, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. We love you, my man. And let's continue on with our roll call tonight as we welcome in Forrest Louie and Deb. How you doing? Good to see you both. Moving on here, we got number 19 in your program from Stockholm, Sweden. Starting on defense, Lars Janssen. There he is. Moving on here, we have Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. D. Cypher, Digger Dog, good to see you both. And Sandra Kincaid, thanks for coming on in. Vanessa, thank you for joining us. Millennium, my man, good to have you here. Continuing on, we have our good friend Road Flare. Good to see you back. And Paramarv, thanks for coming on in. The Gong Show. How you been? Where have you been hiding? Good to have your ass back in here, man. Chris 716, Welsh Hammer, Kurt M, and Griff. Good to see you all. FSG Nav Spotter. Thank you for joining us. Dave Walters, good to see you back. And who else do we have? Nick Adkins, Ozzy. Nice to have you back, my man. As we continue on with our roll call tonight. And who else is here? There's the purple-haired pixie Lara. Kevin, how you doing, man? W. David Page, good to see you. And who else? Deer Slayer, thank you for coming on in. Scrolling on down in our roll call tonight, Matt Geek has arrived. Our attorney at large, Michael Morris, thank you for joining us. And who else do we have? Lemon Squeezy, nice to see you tonight. Thank you for joining us. Moving on, we're caught up. Just like that, we is caught up with a minute to go. Let's start the podcast and radio side. Hello, everybody on the podcast radio side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. We are getting into the URANTIA books, spirituality, and everything in between. I'm sure we'll dabble in a little bit of consciousness there as well. Donna D'Ingillo will join us tonight, and we're going to make sure that we have a good show. D. Cohen, thank you for joining us. There's Bill WD-40 lubing us up for tonight's show. We appreciate that. We want to go into a show nice and smooth. Mentira, how you doing? Good to see you. And Peter Eden from Massachusetts, welcome to Spaced Out Radio's chat room. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget, if you're new here, hit subscribe, ring that bell. The super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And what else can we say here? You can do some shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website. Yeah. We do not have ugly swag, people. We do not have ugly swag. Why? Because we want you to wear our stuff. That's why. That's totally why. You know, you don't want to walk around wearing ugly stuff. So we don't want you doing that. So that's why there's no ugly swag at our store. Hey, put May 10th through 12th, 2024 on your calendar. Why? That's our third annual fan party in Reno, Nevada. There are hotel specials to book right now at the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort. Here we go. Horns up. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon at the SOR Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show for you tonight. We are going to be talking about the URANTIA book. It's a book we've never talked about on this show. Donna D'Ingillo is here tonight, and we're going to get into it. And I'm sure she's going to correct me on her last name. I'm pretty positive on that. Then, in hour number 3, Steve Stockton is here with another spooky story, followed up by the UFO report with Courtney Marcassani. All right, let's get right to it. Donna was raised in a traditional Christian church, but began her spiritual journey in earnest of 1975 upon reading the URANTIA book. And it has been an active promoter in higher universe and deity concepts throughout the course of her life. Back in 1992, she began to meditate daily to perceive the leadings of the Indwelling Spirit of God and learned to transmit the messages of various divine and celestial personalities who were providing information about the massive spiritual upliftment effort now occurring on the planet. Now, with Donna, she's a researcher, she's a follower, she's a writer, she's an author. She wears many hats, and we're glad to have her here. Donna, thank you so much for joining us on Spaced Out Radio tonight. How badly did I butcher your last name? Get to that right off the bat.
Well, not as bad as some people have. It's pronounced D'Ingillo. D'Ingillo.
Okay,
Yeah.
There we go. Now that we got it, we'll never screw it up again.
That's quite all right. I'm used to it.
You know what? I actually broke my cardinal rule. And just for everybody to know, as a journalist, the rule is prior to doing an interview, you always ask for the correct pronunciation of the last name. And for some reason, I forgot to do that. So this is my going back to journalism 101 now on how to pronounce last names. So Donna, thank you for correcting me.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you for that. So, yeah.
You've been doing this a long time, trying to find your own spirituality, your own path, your own way of learning what life is about. That's a big commitment. I mean, you're looking at 1975. That's 49 years almost that you've been questioning things. What put you on this path? What made you wonder if there was more out there?
Thank you. That's a great question. I guess it always was with me as a child. I had an interest in God. I also had an interest in ESP, and I knew somehow that they were related, but I certainly didn't get that when I was being raised in the Lutheran tradition. That my parents were involved in a church, and I went to Sunday school. I even taught Sunday school for a while. But when I was in my early years, teen years, going through 2 years of catechism, there was something that happened within me, that the catechism and the theology that I was learning was so flat and had no energy that I started to question, and I became agnostic. So in my early and later teens, I was very, very skeptical. I knew that there was a God, and I knew that I believed in Jesus. I just didn't believe the things I was being told about them. So, and of course, in my young in my young adult life and later teens, I always, wondered, well, who am I and why am I here? And, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? So when I found the URANTIA book in 1975, I was 21, and I found it in the library in Buffalo, New York, where I was raised. And when I took the book off the shelf and I opened it, and it was like my truth bells went off. Ding, ding, ding. You found what you were looking for. And I had such a visceral reaction to the book. And I've never had that with any other book that I've ever read, that it immediately grabbed my attention. It helped me understand who I was in relationship to the big thing we call life. And I didn't have an orientation until I read that book. And the book is so large, it's 2,100 pages, and it covers such a broad variety of topics on who we are, the nature of God, the nature of reality, the big spiritual cosmology that is a part of all creation, what happened to this planet and why we're so messed up. It goes into the history of our planet. So it was just an incredible foray into such deep truth that I was so hungry for. It fed my soul, and it just kept me on this path of continuing to search and search. And it was mainly my foundational structure. I've looked at other things in the past, but this one has really, really captured and held my interest. And then it was about it was 1992 when I first started making contact with the higher realms. And I became to understand that the period that we're in right now is part of the spiritual realms, what you might call spiritual administration of life, to get our planet back on track, because we have kind of deviated from the divine plan of evolution that happened on an event that happened here 250,000 years ago, which is related in the URANTIA book. And when I started to read the stories about what happened here and to see the conditions in which we live on this world, I concluded that this had to be true because it made too much sense. So that was my initial foray, and it has kept me on this path of not only trying to understand the nature of reality, but to help orient people and to get us out of this matrix we've been living in, of this reality that keeps us beholden to certain values that I do not feel, and many people are starting to recognize that this is not the right way to live. So that's kind of my beginning background, and what I'm doing now is to prepare people for this higher reality that it's now coming into this planet, where we are now remembering that we are members of a large cosmic family. We have universe brothers and sisters that want to help us reshape our social cultures so that we're more reflective of ways of love and peace and compassion, where life is more fair and just for all, not just for a chosen few.
Right. Donna, as you go down this path and as you realize that the Urantia book was really resonating with you. I look at it like this. I mean, there's a lot of religions out there that I don't resonate with, but I've been able to find my own spirituality. Do you look at your own path as this is the garden that was grown for you to find, so that way you felt you could fit in rather than trying to fit in to a religious round hole, and you're just a square box?
Oh, I was definitely a round hole in a square box. And for me, it wasn't about believing any particular set of dogma. It was more about centering my life on becoming a better person. And really, I think the big thing that changed me was when I read part 4 of the Life and Teachings of Jesus, that went into every year of his human life and why he was truly here, that superseded the information that I had been indoctrinated in the Christian church, which was to develop myself so that my human potential could help me feel purposeful and like I had a meaning and value to my life. And in reading that, that was really the catalyst to move me out of organized religion into finding my own space of God within me. That was my guiding force through the course of my life, that led me in certain paths of exploration to understand a larger picture of reality. So that was a big help to me when I read that part in part 4 of the Life and Teachings of Jesus.
All right. Do you consider yourself a religious person then?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like I'm very religious. I'm very spiritual. But I'd like to make the distinction here that my religion is very personal to me. I don't ascribe to any particular set, organized or socialized religion. My religious belief is based on my faith in God as my mother and father, divine mother and father, who loves me and is helping me to become a better person. So I don't really ascribe to any set principles or dogma. I go into my spirit and ask for, what do I need to learn? What is truthful? Help me see the bigger picture of reality and kind of get it through my internal intuitive senses, rather than going to a minister or a church, where I'm going to be taught what to believe, instead of, having my own inner spiritual development become the anchor and the foundation of my life.
So, when you look at, in the next half hour, we're going to get into what the Urantia book is all about. But in learning about you and your own quest, where are you looking for all of this to go? What's the end goal here for you?
Well, I have started a ministry, and it is called the Institute of Christ Consciousness. And the URL is simply Institute Christ Consciousness, because I feel very motivated to help other people develop their own spirituality, their own path to God, outside the confines of specific dogma and religious traditions. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, because people are free to choose their own path. But I want to help people really activate their human potential. We have such incredible skills and abilities hardwired into us by our Creator, and that yet we have had a hard time tapping into our human creative and spiritual potential. And one of my goals now for the rest of my life is to help people outwork the trauma of living in this matrix soup that we've been living in, kind of unplug from this reality that tells us what to believe and what to think, and help people start to come into their own powers of discernment, and to help the human consciousness system unplug from what you might call beliefs that hold them back from achieving their true potential. So I act as a healing facilitator to connect people back to their divine source, clear out the interference that might be in their thoughts or their emotions or even in their ancestral memory, so they can have a much clearer signal to their own indwelling spirit that loves them and wants to guide them along on their path to develop themselves to be purposeful and have wonderful meaning and value in their own lives.
Donna, with everything that goes on with a lot of different religions out there, they are often very narrow-minded and very meek in what society has to offer everything today, especially on a show like this where we talk a lot about UFOs, alien life, spiritual consciousness, near-death experiences, life after death and everything. Where do you stand on those topics?
Well, the URANTIA book did a lot to open my mind to a much broader picture of reality. And the thing that was so exciting for me was to understand that, first of all, we are not the only planet in creation with intelligent life. There are trillions of worlds out there in the greater creative design that has intelligent life, such as we. But there are also many, many different levels of personalities who are intelligent and want to collaborate in this big cosmic design that we are all a part of. I also was very happy to read in the URANTIA book about what happens to us when we leave this planet, how we ascend through the bigger picture of reality into this whole creative design where we are becoming bigger individuals. We are becoming more productive. We are becoming more intelligent, more wise, more loving, more compassionate. And that really helped me understand that, there's no such thing as really death. You can live eternally. And it also helped me understand more about the nature of that we have universe brothers and sisters who are on other planets. So it was a very big eye opener for me to understand a lot of those principles that are very topical for right now and what we're going through, because I believe the veil is thinning on this world to reconnect us to our larger cosmic family and to help us understand the nature of reality and how we progress as souls throughout the cosmos once we leave the physical body. So that life is a continuum, and we have a very, very wonderful adventure ahead of us to find out more about who we are and to learn more about the nature of reality. So all those things that we want to know about, the nature of physics and science, and these are things that are all available to us as we ascend throughout the cosmos.
Where do you think the soul goes? Is it eternal? Is it here just to pick us up or pick life forms up at different times? What's with the soul?
It's a very complex thing to speak about, but from what I have understood, that the soul is a part of us here and now, and it is a composition that we co-create with our creator source, that everything that we think and do and say that is rooted in love and divine values of truth, beauty, and goodness becomes a bigger part of our body. And then it's like, it's not a physical composition, it's a different substance, but it's a substance nonetheless. It's not visible with our physical eyes, but we can see it or sense it with our spiritual senses, and that we just keep growing our souls. We grow our souls, and that soul is our vehicle that takes us on this journey throughout the various dimensional levels of the cosmos.
Okay. Do you believe then in reincarnation?
I have to say, I am not sure. Because a lot of the beliefs that I've studied about reincarnation talk about coming back here and being on this karmic wheel. And I am not so sure if that is the way it really works. because what they talk about in the URANTIA papers is the long evolutionary careers we have and the areas in which we travel and the stages we go from to metamorphosize from a human being up to a high frequency spiritual being. And so the purpose for reincarnation is to keep coming back here, or maybe even other worlds to learn lessons. So I'm not so sure about that particular definition of reincarnation. I do believe that that our souls, our human souls, can communicate with other souls and receive information. But does that mean that's reincarnation? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure.
But you are confident the soul keeps moving.
Absolutely. I believe that the soul is designed for growth. And then when we as humans feel like we're stagnating and the soul can't grow, it leads us to a certain type of depression or anxiety, because the soul is a part of our human nature, whether or not we recognize it as such. And that soul needs love and compassion and understanding in order to grow. And when we don't get that as humans, there's this kind of like a diminishment of our self-value and our self-worth, which I think is very antithetical to the growth of the soul.
Okay, so if you believe the soul moves on, where does it go? Does it go to a heaven? Does it go to a place up there where they're all being stored? Is it a party town, much like Las Vegas? Where are we going here?
We are going all through the cosmos. There are many, many worlds that are designed to train us for our long evolutionary adventure. If you think about the term of eternal life, what does that mean? How do we live eternally? What do we do eternally? And they do talk about this in the URANTIA book, that we go through a very long period of soul training where we go to many worlds and visit them and just amass tremendous amounts of information, while at the same time we are being lovers and servers for our brothers and sisters. We are helping them. So it's almost like we are teachers and learners at the same time. Our souls are growing and we learn new concepts, but then we also go back and teach people who are kind of coming, personalities who are coming up behind us. So we keep this continuum of growth moving. It's a very vast picture that they paint in the URANTIA book about the human ascension career. And then one day, after we have amassed all this training, there are actual universes being created out in the nether regions of space, that one day we, with all of our training, will actually be able to have our own universe and act as the creator gods and goddesses of those universes. There are other career paths open to us that they talk a little bit about in the URANTIA book, but it's so vast that they couldn't get everything, all that information in there. But we have a mighty, mighty adventure awaiting for us once we leave this planet, and it's very exciting. And I'm very energized by that perspective and that notion.
Does our soul continue to know who we are?
Yes. Yes, we retain our identity. We always retain our identity. Now, we may not remember everything about our human life. For example, what we had for breakfast yesterday. That's not going to be part of our memory circuit, but our moral decisions, the way we've treated one another, these are the things that we remember and are a part of our soul. But our identity, you will be Scott, I will be Donna, but we will have so much more bandwidth, if you will, in our minds and in our souls, that we will be upgraded humans, but we won't be in a human body. We won't have the same composition of our physical makeup. We will have a different type of a body, and that body will continue to metamorphosize until we are more spiritual.
Donna D'Ingillo is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Told you I'd get her name right.
You did.
That's the way I work. That's the way I work. We're going to find out what the URANTIA book is all about when we return for the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio right after this. D'Ingillo flows off the tongue nicely.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a quick half hour. I told you it'd be quick.
It was. It's very quick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I start talking about this stuff, I can go on forever. So it is going.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I'm already starting to collect questions for hour 2. So.
Oh, so that's when we'll do the Q&A in hour 2?
Yes. So
okay.
That's when we shall do it.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to, the book is divided into 4 parts. So if I could give like a little bit of an overview of what each part speaks about, I think that might be helpful for your audience because it covers so much territory that it can get really kind of like, oh, I can't absorb it all. But if I break it down into parts, it might be a little bit easier for people to understand.
Sure. Which one do you want to talk about? The women who love Jesus?
Well, that's later. That's more about my personal ministry. So maybe you can segue into some of the work that I'm doing after I talk about the 4 parts of the book. Yeah. I already mentioned part 4, the life and teachings of Jesus, which is a wonderful account of his life that far encompasses anything that the Bible has to say about his life. It's just...
We can do that.
Changed me forever reading that story.
We can do that.
Great.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I'm okay I don't need to use the bathroom just yet. So I think I can hold another half hour.
Yes, we're good.
So about how many more minutes? About 2?
We've got about 3 and a half.
3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you get into all this? Where was your story? Your intro?
My intro happened December 13th, 2011 at 7:45 p.m. when I saw the angel of death in my mother's eyes.
Oh, wow. That's pretty heavy. Wow.
Yeah.
Is that when she actually passed then, right at that moment?
No, my mother passed 5 months ago, 4 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah. The angel of death, after I saw him in her eyes, I wasn't supposed to see him. and 2 hours later, I, not knowing anything about spirituality or anything, I channeled him. And he told me how to keep my mom alive. And I kept her, and I got another, 2011 to 2023, 12 years out of her.
Wow.
11 and a half years.
What a gift of grace that was.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I've never heard anything like that before.
Oh, yeah.
So she was very ill and you were able to give her the means, help her get better. Is that what happened? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
You just how to keep her better. Wow. And it wasn't any medication. It was love.
Yes. Wow. Did she know that you had that experience?
I told her.
You did tell her.
I told her. I did not. It took me like 6-8 months to tell my dad.
How did he take it? How did he accept it?
I didn't know how he was going to take it. But he ended up taking it well.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially if it was a few months later that he could see that your mom was getting better. I hope that they gave him a little bit more confidence that you had a legitimate thing to tell him. Wow.
She had a lot of pain. Okay. She was a 2-time breast cancer survivor, colon cancer survivor. I mean, she was a fighter. And, I remember sitting with her, probably the day before she passed. It was just me and her in her room at the hospice. And I just said, Mom, it's time for you to go home. And I said, it's okay. I said, I got Dad. I said, you don't need to worry about anything else. I got Dad, and I'll make sure he's okay. And no, it was awesome. It was awesome. So I have zero regrets. And it's, it's pretty cool. We got 10 seconds to go.
Okay.
Thomas Fessler, thank you for the wonderful super chat tonight, kicking it off for tonight and the week. And here we go with the second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Donna D'Ingillo is here tonight on the show talking about this book. You may not have heard about it. It's called the URANTIA Book. It's philosophical. It's spiritual. It's a little bit religious. Some people may say controversial. It was written in 1955 or published back then. And Donna, thank you so much for being here. But what is it about this book that makes it all the things I described?
It's massive, comprehensive perspective on the nature of reality that encompasses science, philosophy, and religion, and brings it together in this very beautiful presentation of the nature of reality, the nature of God, and who we are in that big cosmic design of all life. So it's very, very, I call it like a super guide to life, if you will.
Okay, so who wrote it? Where did it come from?
Well, I have to back up a little bit before I talk about who wrote it, because this world is a part of a very vast cosmic creation. And there are spiritual administration overseeing each inhabited planet, such as ours. And the name Urantia is actually the name of our planet in the cosmic registries. The book started to be formed in the early part of the 20th century because our spiritual administrators were seeing that we were advancing materially and technologically, but we were lagging behind in our spirituality and our moral development. And so over a period of a number of years, I would say for about maybe 30 years or so, there were a group of people in Chicago who were beginning to get information. There was a gentleman who was actually starting to speak certain strange concepts in his sleep at night. And I don't know who this person is. This name has always been kept secret. But he was brought to a gentleman by the name of Dr. William Sadler, who was considered the father, excuse me, of, oh gosh, I'm losing my voice, American psychiatry. And Dr. Sadler started to examine him and listen to what was being said. And there was a lot of information coming through about the nature of reality, cosmic information that was very unusual to hear. And so over the course of a number of years, Dr. Sadler was a master group of people in Chicago, especially, people from the University of Chicago. There was information coming through this gentleman. He's known as the sleeping, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to take that back, sleeping subject, that he was detached from the information that he was channeling, if I can use that word. But it was very unusual information. So Dr. Sadler amassed a group of people at his residence in Chicago, and they started to explore the information that was coming through. And there would be questions would be asked of the people who would be attending. And then the information would show up, like a paper would materialize. Information would just they would refine the information and come back. And I think over time, and I don't have all of the facts about the early stages of the book, but the information was compiled over a number of years based on the questions that were being asked of the group that Dr. Sadler was presenting, or had informed them that this was this group. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit muddled here in my explanation. But eventually, the papers were assembled around the early part of the 1930s. And then part 4, which was the life and teachings of Jesus, basically just was put into word form. It materialized by some spiritual beings who could do that, who can manipulate the energies, and they put together this beautiful story of the life and teachings that was a composition, what you might call from the Akashic records of Jesus human life. The book was finally published in 1955 by the URANTIA Foundation in Chicago. And at that time, there were a number of people who were learning about this information. And then there were study groups that were formed to study the information and to, learn about these very large cosmic concepts that were being presented.
So many people, not to, kind of throw dust in the wind here, but many people online have looked at this as almost being cult-like. Would you agree with that? Or would you say that that's a misinterpretation?
It is a misinterpretation. It depends on how you look at what a cult is. I mean, there's no guru, there's no leader telling you what to believe. It is an information network of people who study these concepts, who like to talk about them and share ideas. I think the main thing about this book is that it gives people an opportunity to make up their own minds. And sometimes when people are in cults, they're so indoctrinated by what the guru or the leader says that they don't have any ability to think freely for themselves. And this book does not have anything like that. And it does encourage people to develop their own inner relationship with our creator, with divine source, however you want to call that, and to develop yourself as the best version of yourself as you can. So I don't think it's cult-like at all. And in all of the organizations that have been kind of like offshoots of that, I have never found that cult-like mentality in that at all.
Okay. Why do you think that there would be people out there to get that kind of reputation? Do you think it's just because of the idea that anything new is automatically thought of that way?
Possibly. I'm not sure. I also feel like that this book, because of its very vast amount of information about the nature of reality and who we are, strikes at a certain type of mentality that pushes people's buttons because it's going to stretch your mind. And if people have certain pre-existing beliefs and the information in this book starts to press on that, it may form some people, it may fill people with feelings of fear or anxiety because it's new and they're not familiar with it. So it's a book that you have to read with an open mind and an open heart, and be willing to ask your own truth sensor is this real? You know, this is a book to read with the eye and the spirit of discernment.
And what is that discernment? What is it meant for?
It is meant to help us come into a deeper awareness that we are children of a loving creator, that we have souls, that we have a spirit that is trying to help us access the divine in us so that we can grow into who we really are meant to be, and to help us understand our place in the whole big design of life and what our purpose is. And so it is a very comprehensive overview of some of those very important questions that every human asks. Who am I? Why am I here? What is the nature of reality? And this really answers those very, very poignant personal questions. And I think it's very important for people to have an ability to discern, because we have been living on a world where we have so many divergent opinions and belief systems that it's very hard for people to really sort through what is truthful and what is error. And for me, this book helped me to make that discernment in a much easier manner, because it really rang my internal truth bells intuitively. I felt this was right and correct. But everyone has to make that decision.
Okay, so the idea that everybody has their own decision to make, does this mean that there is a different God out there, a new God? Are we preaching to the same old God that everybody else knows? Is it Santa Claus? You know, because I am a believer in Santa Claus, even though I'm 50. You know, I still believe. So, I mean, where's this all going?
The nature of our Creator is not changeable. Our Creator is loving, kind, compassionate. But we have been living on a world, and it is explained in the URANTIA book, of why this world is the way it is and why we have so many different concepts of God. And the beauty of reading, especially in part 4, it speaks very, very clearly about the nature of God, who and what God is, and why it is important for us to develop that relationship with our Creator, because we have an actual fragment of divinity living in us, so that God can experience human life in and with and through us, and achieve the objectives that have been given to us for our souls to develop. And so the path to our Creator is unique to each individual, but at the core of reality, where our Creator exists, is changeless perfection, never changing, always perfect, and such a loving companion to us, that when we open our hearts and our souls to our Creator, our lives will change for the better, because now we have access directly to truth. And I feel, and from my own experience, that when I was being brought up in the Christian religion, I was told what to believe about God, that when I started to read the URANTIA book was completely antithetical to the loving nature of reality and who our Creator is.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. As we move forward and look into this, you know, the divine creator is, you know, is it the be all and end all? There are many people who believe God's a creator. There are many people who believe in the Darwin theory. There are many people who believe that life was put here by aliens. Where do you think? Where do you stand on that?
See, that's all explained. It's all explained. So let me go into a little bit about the different parts, because each part has a specific objectives to teach us. So part 1 is called the central and super universe, and it goes into the physical composition of the place where God exists. God exists as a Trinity being. You might call it God, the parent of all, God, the mother and child aspect of deity, and God, the action. And everything exists at that place. This is where divine patterns are created. And then there is another level of reality where you might consider that to be time-space reality, where we evolving. So the central and the super universe talks about how the central universe is a place where perfection exists. Everything is static. Nothing changes because it's perfect. And there is a universe called Havona, and it's kind of like where we've taken the word heaven from. It's a perfect universe that is comprised of a billion worlds that are perfect, and they are the pattern planets for our evolutionary worlds that exist in another dimensional reality. So at the central universe, the URANTIA book authors go into the myriads numbers of divine and other spiritual celestial personalities who are created, who administer this large agglomeration of space, which is called the super universes. And the super universes are divided into subsectors. And the first part of the URANTIA book goes into not only the physical composition, but also the myriads of personalities that inhabit these high spiritual levels of reality. But they are also physical planets too, but they do not necessarily have the same level of human life as we have. Part 2 goes into the local universe. So we're subdividing the super universes into smaller local divisions. And there are 2 beings who come from the paradise level. They come from the paradise creator deities. There's a masculine and a feminine component of God. They act as our divine mother, and they actually leave their paradise home of perfection and come into an area of unpervaded space and stake out what you might call a claim, where they're setting up their boundaries to create their own family of very diverse spiritual and even human-like beings to evolve to a higher level of reality, to replicate and reflect one day the divine perfect levels of reality. So you might consider that to be where the evolution comes from. So when people talk about it's creation, no, it's evolution, I say it's both. It's both. That we are here to evolve, but we are created as beings. And then also in part 2 of the URANTIA book, they talk about how human life is created and implanted into a planet. So that our DNA is actually created in what they call the life laboratories at a certain higher planetary level. It is not a planet that evolves. It is planets that's what they call architectural worlds. They are actually built by spiritual beings and other personalities who create the composition of the planet so that it fulfills a specific function. And there is a planet or a world where there is a personality order called life carriers who actually put together the electrobiochemical molecules in DNA for our human evolution. And it is implanted into a planet, and the divine spark is enlivened it, and that divine spark comes from our mother God, who is the life force. And she is the personality with the divine father. She lays her circuits of consciousness out, and we live in her womb of consciousness. And she gives us the ability to think, feel, and act through the 7 circuits she hardwires into us through the chakra system. So when people ask, is it evolution or creation? I say it's both. But it's very important to look at the concepts that they're putting forth in parts 1 and parts 2, because they lay the foundation for part 3, which is called The History of URANTIA. And it goes into a lot of our ancient history, but not all. There are certain things that they were not allowed, the spiritual authors of the URANTIA book were not given permission to reveal to us, because when it came through the early part of the 20th century, we were not ready conceptually to understand these things. But this is a different time now. And so we have the right to know who we are, what our origins were, what our history is, and where we're going. And this is very well laid out in part 3.
Understandable. Understandable. Does it also come with, psychic intuitive powers, powers that we have built into us, but seems to have forgotten through society?
That's a really good question. And I would say it doesn't really go into a lot of that right now at this time, because when the book was coming through back in the early part of the 20th century, there was a lot of what you might call disinformation about spiritualism going back into the 19th century. And so they didn't really want to talk about that too much. But from my own experience, I know that my intuitive abilities, my psychic abilities have been enhanced. I've had enhanced hearing, so I can receive messages from higher personalities. I've had enhanced vision, so I can see more ranges of, I don't even know how to call it, just I have more visual range in through my intuitive abilities. So yes, we have the ability to grow our extrasensory perception. It is not something that we're taught to do, because a lot of this has been ridiculed. And it really is an important thing to understand, that we have been, as a planet, participating in a deviant way of evolution that the authors of the URANTIA book go into, of why this planet is the way it is. There was an ancient event that happened here 250,000 years ago that took us off the divine plan of evolution. The URANTIA book goes into great detail about how a world, an evolutionary world like ours, populated with indigenous humans like we, how we evolved from primitive species like, a one-celled amoeba, up to a being that's Jesus-like, and that is the type of personality that we are being developed, so that we are aware of our divine origins and are aware of our purpose. And that was the beauty that was so compelling for me to read in part 4 about the life and teachings of Jesus, how he perfected his human nature. And this is something that we really don't understand very well yet on our planet, that we can actually perfect our human nature and become Christ-like beings. And that was why I called my website the Institute of Christ Consciousness, to help people actually grow in that Christed sense of who they are, where they're tremendously loving beings, self-actualized, and have tremendous gifts to share with the world, to make this world a better place.
90 seconds to go before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Donna D'Ingillo is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, talking about the URANTIA books, the spiritual side of everything, okay, which a lot of people today may equate to the paranormal. Does it talk about the spiritual side of life after death, where we could go, and it ties into hauntings or anything like that?
It doesn't tie into hauntings. Well, this is where I really have to kind of go back into the event that happened here many thousands of years ago, where we got off course. Wow, it's there's a lot of material to talk about. But the nature of our spiritual growth, they do talk about that, because there's something that they really want to flesh out for us, and it's called the thought adjuster, or that divinity spark that lives within our higher consciousness, that's trying to tweak human thought and feeling to the way our creator thinks, which is love and compassion and kindness and equality for all, where everyone is equal in the eyes of our Creator. No one has favored status. Everyone is treated the same. And so that spiritual principle is very well flushed out. But there are some very strange anomalies, things that have happened on this world that are unique, that is part of the
Right.
phenomenon.
Donna, hold on right there. We're done hour number 1 on Spaced Out Radio with Donna D'Ingillo. We'll be right back. More URANTIA and your questions on Spaced Out Radio. We will return right after this. There we go, Donna. We are clear.
Okay.
We got about 6 minutes, okay?
Yeah, I'll be right back.
I'm just going to put you in the green room, and I'll be right back as well. Good show so far. I like it. All right. I am back. Cinnamon Toast Crunch is a great cereal. Very much is. Chat room, if you have questions for Donna, time to put them in. Hello, Aussie Ange. Mark Sanchez in your collection of Hawaiian shirts. How you doing? Warded Dragon. Algaray over on Twitch. How you doing? And who else is here? All right. Reminder to all of you, put your questions in capital letters. That would be wonderful. And thank you to Thomas Fessler for the one super chat we have tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support, Thomas. Thank you very much. Don't forget, you can join the Space Travelers Club for as low as $5 a month on Patreon. The link is in the description below on YouTube as well. You can shop at our store on spacedoutradio.com. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag whatsoever. Pay Parker, how are you? Or Pays Parker. Pays. Data, nice to see you. We got 15 seconds.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. You can join us at youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us there, Clam? Weighage. Weighage is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Donna D'Ingillo is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We are talking about some really cool stuff here. Very cool stuff. URANTIA. URANTIA. There we go. I'm just having troubles pronouncing everything tonight. My goodness. But nonetheless, Donna, thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Right on. We're glad you're here too. And, right before the break, we were kind of getting into the paranormal side of everything, because if I look at the Holy Bible, okay, a book that I like, I've read it, there's a lot of paranormal stuff in there. To me, it's the greatest ghost book ever written. And the fact that many religions actually refuse to even acknowledge that as the greatest paranormal book ever, I find that kind of odd. It kind of makes me scratch my head at times. When you look at all the paranormal stuff that happens within the Bible and within URANTIA, I mean, where do you define this? What do you define as paranormal?
Well, that's a really loaded question. I think people put things in a paranormal category of things they don't understand, and they don't have a context for it. And this is one of the things that was so striking for me, because I was interested in ESP and things like that, and I didn't get any type of understanding from the Christian religion that I was brought up in. So when I started to read the URANTIA book, and they go into, I guess my picture lost. They go into a little bit more of what happened here. And this is what I'd like to just discuss a little bit briefly here, because we have been shielded from being a member of our universe family, where we would have access to so much more information, which would help us make sense of who our universe brothers and sisters are, the planets from which they come, what are these things that we call ghosts or specters. We have a right to know this information. We have a very checkered past as a planet. There was an event on this world 250,000 years ago where our spiritual administrator, or the term they use in the URANTIA book is the Planetary Prince, who is an unseen spiritual being who acts as the God, if you will, a lower God, but still a spiritual being who is charged with shepherding this particular world from its indigenous inception, where indigenous life begins to evolve, up into a culture where there is no war, peace is the operating principle, love is dominant, and we have a social culture that is highly, highly evolved. This personality took our planet off the divine plan of evolution. And the divine plan of evolution is very well defined in the URANTIA book. It is a beautiful account of the long evolutionary trajectory to take a world like ours from a very raw, primitive state up to a place where it would be considered heaven on earth. He did this in conjunction because with his spiritual administrator, who is one level up from him. So we are living on an uninhabited world. The next administrative level they talk about in the URANTIA book is the system. And that system sovereign is charged with shepherding 1,000 inhabited worlds to a higher planetary destiny. The name of that spiritual personality at the system level was Lucifer. He got it into his own head that he did not like the divine plan of evolution that our universe mother and father put in place for their creation to evolve to become a bigger heavenly reflection of the paradise level. He and his assistant, Satan, came to this world to co-opt this planetary supervisor to follow their plans of deviant evolution. And what they said was, we can do whatever we want. There is no higher level creator, and we do not have to follow the divine mother and father's plans of evolution. And we're going to do whatever we want in our domain of space and do whatever we want to shepherd these people into higher beings. What they essentially negated in us was our right to have our connection to our creator source through the indwelling spirit. They negated that. They did some messy, messy things to come into our system of consciousness and put all kinds of monkey wrenches and traps to keep us in a low state of vibrational understanding of our nature of reality. This is a very complex thing that I'm talking to you about that would require a lot more detail and explanation. But it is something that I've done a deep dive into and seeing what they did to pervert our human consciousness to keep us from ascending to higher levels. They were able to convince a number of spiritual personalities to side with them. And there was a group of spiritual, or what you might call beings on the planet, who were halfway between human and angels. They kind of exist in a different strata. And they created a lot of mischief on the planet. They were able to infiltrate human mind and possess them. But when Jesus came to this world, and Jesus is actually our divine father who chose this world to incarnate as a human being to show the nature, the loving nature of reality and of God, and to show to our creator how humans can evolve to a higher level. So he got rid of all those nefarious spirits, that they could not have the power to infect human consciousness unless a human wills them in. And there are a lot of negative entities and thought forms that are on the planet that are a residual mindset of this rebellion culture. Was all about separation and self-centeredness. And their doctrine was, you can do whatever you want to do, and there are no repercussions. And there are no, you can do whatever you want without any repercussions, and there will be no like judgment against you. That is the complete opposite of the nature of God, where the love of our Creator is restraining, and we have been given the gift of pain to help us understand when we are out of alignment with the higher laws and principles of life. Pain is actually our friend, but because we have been living on a world where we're so far away from our divine inheritance, that pain has created so much suffering in us. And we are now in a phase to correct all that, to get rid of this Luciferian mindset, which is now in full swing. We are seeing this play out right here in front of our faces. We are in theater right now of watching this play out. And there are many people who are questioning this matrix that we're living in, that was spawned 250,000 years ago. So we have this virus in our DNA. I've done a deep dive into looking at what this rebellion mindset actually did into our minds and bodies. And there are a lot of people now acting as healers to correct that with higher spiritual help, so we get back on track of who we are as sons and daughters of God, and can create a higher planetary culture where life is fair and just, and there's abundance for all, and we're all sharing in the bounties of life. We are on that trajectory now, but we're in an intense crucible of separating ourselves from this very insidious virus of selfishness and self-centeredness. It's essentially the glorification of the ego instead of the glorification of who we are as sons and daughters of God, where we all get to share in the beauty and the bounties of life.
Okay, I want to ask you in regards to, I look at, biblically speaking, I mean, the Bible talks a lot about prophets.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about, but it also talks about false prophets,
Mm-hmm.
and those who can, read minds and all sorts of stuff. And the way I look at it is, psychic people tend to take a lot of heat from religious people because of being a false prophet, so to speak, people who can see things, and seers and everything. Where does Urantia stand on that? Because, in the end, it's one of my favorite arguments with people who are deeply religious, is when you get into psychic type intuition, or even clairvoyancy or something along those lines, because it's a gift from God, and yet many do not appreciate the gift and immediately turn it into something evil and blasphemous.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And I can't really say that the Urantia speaks specifically to that. That's, again, a place where another person would have to make his and her own discernment. I can only speak from my own experience, and that I look at some of the literal interpretations of the Bible as being part of the, people may not like this term, but I'm going to use it anyway, spiritual laziness of humanity, to keep us stuck into certain very rigid mindsets, so that we do not feel safe to step out of the boundaries of that and look at new ideas, and let our own internal spirit of truth or truth sensor tell us what is true. There are many people who are conditioned to believe what they have been told and stay in that little box. I'm not one of those people. And that box is starting to, the boundaries of that box are starting to dissolve. And so what it's doing for a lot of people who have this kind of fundamentalist type thinking, it's making them scared, because now they don't have that same foundation on which to stand. And so they get very fear-based because of it. And I think that's a very conditioned repercussion of the rebellion mindset to keep us in fear, so that we won't go into these higher dimensions and look at the nature of reality from a higher perspective.
So do you believe then that psychic people or psychic intuitives do have evil practice inside of them?
They can. Not everybody is motivated to do good, but it's, again, it's a very complex issue, and I can't just give you one straight answer. It has to go with, what is the motivation in your heart? Are you serving yourself and your ego, or are you serving humanity and a greater good? That is the question that people have to ask. And a lot of people get caught up and they think they're doing the right thing, but they're really serving themselves. And so it's really very important to be very discerning about what your motivations and your purposes are. And so that's where I tell people to look into your heart. You know, if you're trying to do something that's going to make people in your life a better place in which to live, then I would say that you're tending more toward the good. But if you're doing things for your own benefit, and you don't care if you screw anybody over, then yeah, to me, that's evil. And you can use your psychic powers for ill as well.
That's also called humanity.
True.
Let's get to some audience questions here, because we have a few of them as we speak. Let's start off with Scanman, who is asking, please describe how the URANTIA book was written and discovered. Who wrote this book?
It was written by spiritual personalities, a wide variety of spiritual beings. Some were divine, and they amassed these papers so that they would be compiled into English. And it was a period of several years while this information was being given to this group of people in Chicago. It was called the Forum. And there was a series, the papers would be presented and people could ask questions, and over time they were refined. But it was not written by humans, although the spiritual authors did cull the highest levels of human thought that were available on the planet at that time to put into these concepts that form the major part of the book.
Oh, okay. All right, let's continue on here with another question from Scanman, who is asking, is it true that one man transcribed this book while in a series of trances?
He did not transcribe. From my understanding, he was in a sleep state and his mind was being used by higher spiritual personalities to transmit this information through him while he was not aware that this was happening. Now, how much information came through about this, I am not sure myself. And I don't know if there are people who are still alive that have recollection of this. There is still a lot of mystery around how the book came into being. And there's a purpose for that, so that people would not evaluate the book on its origins, but evaluate it on its content. And that's a really big, important distinction to make, because this is a very unusual book. It's not designed for just one generation. It is kind of like a manual to help us get back on track of our true purpose as a planet. So there's a lot of mystery around it, so that people wouldn't focus on the book's origins and authors, but really focus on the content and use your own truth sensor to discern if this is resonating for you.
How often do you pray?
Every day. Every day.
And,
I pray at different times of the day. I think of people that I'm sending love to. So it's not like I have to sit down and, I'm always in a constant state of praying and asking for guidance and just communicating. It has just become so second nature to me now.
Okay, what do you pray for? And what do you hope to get out of it?
I hope to help people open up to their spiritual potential. I pray for the divine will to be done for their lives and in their lives, for people to open up to their own spiritual potential and their God power. I pray for peace, but I don't just pray. I'm actually working in the circuits of consciousness to ask for more truth light to shine into the areas where there is error and evil, so that the truth light can dispel those false forms and help people unplug from the reality that we've been living in that keeps them in fear. That's one of the things I do. I focus in the collective mind, and I ask for truth light and spiritual personalities to come in and help us clean up the mess we've made of this planet.
That's a positive way of thinking. That is for sure. All right, let's move on here. Let's go to Derek. If we have multiple lives, why would we retain the same identity? If we are who we are, can we really change that much? A Taurus is a Taurus, a Scorpio is a Scorpio.
There is a concept in the URANTIA book that talks about something that I've never seen before in any other religious text. It's called the concept of personality. And by that, I do not mean the sum total of a person's characteristics. Personality, as defined in the URANTIA book, is different. It's a very broad topic, and the authors really don't give us a very concrete definition of it. But in my own understanding and in the work that I've done in helping people heal from the past trauma, I've come to understand that personality is a gift from our Creator that makes us unique. There is no other personality like you, Dave, or like me, Donna, or the gentleman who is asking the question. It is a unique individuation of a concept of our Creator that is projected onto, excuse me, our physical DNA and gives us the ability to grow, to think, to feel, and to respond to the spiritual energies that are within us. Our personalities do not change. Our identities are a part of that personality that we grow into we come into a greater understanding of who we are and the abilities that God has given us to cultivate over the long course of our lives. The soul is that part of our existential personality that grows through our life experience, so that we're kind of like, I look at it, I'm a sewer. So for example, if I have a pattern, that is a simple design, but what makes it unique is I can pick a different color, I can pick a fabric, I can fix, I can tweak it in the way I want. It's still the personality, but now it's unique, because I'm adding my own life experience to that. And that gives our Creator a way to experience life in and through us. And so we do change in terms of our experience and our ability to understand the nature of reality. But our personality does not change. What we are doing is we are growing into our personality. We are growing our potential and expressing that in unique ways. This is a very complex concept to speak about, so I hope I address that to the questioner's satisfaction. But I would say that from a higher perspective, that we are designed to evolve in God consciousness and to act as a co-creator with God over the course of our lives, so that we can manifest what has been seeded in us by our Creator to produce, that is going to be a part of the divine plan of all creation.
On that note, Donna, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We have another half an hour left with Donna D'Ingillo, and we are going to be talking with her more about Urantia, and spirituality, ghosts, everything in between. We'll take your questions as well if you're in one of our chat rooms or on Twitter. That's actually X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. We continue with Spaced Out Radio right after this. Stay tuned.
That was a good question there.
Yeah.
That was a big question.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
That was good. All right. Hey, Super Duke. What's happening?
So when we're done at 2, then you're going to go into another segment. So then I can exit this, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That you can. We'll let you go.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to go to Betty Bye then.
I don't blame you.
But I still have a lot of energy. I'm really happy that this has just kind of been a very energizing type of discussion that we've been having. Yeah, definitely not boring.
I told you. I was ready for you.
Yeah. Very good. It's amazing how fast time goes when you're having this, these chats. It just speeds right by. It's really great.
Yes, it's very cool. It's very cool. And we got good people in our chat room, too, who tune us on in.
Excellent.
Excuse me. I'm glad you're having a good time, and we appreciate you coming on with us tonight.
Well, I'm glad you're interested in exploring this topic. I mean, one podcast on this topic is really not enough because it's so big. I mean, it is almost 2,100 pages of information. So it's very difficult to take these big concepts and kind of translate it into the areas of people's interests too. So I hope I'm explaining it in a way that people can understand that's not too too challenging, too difficult, because there are some very, very difficult parts to read in the book. The thing I found when I first started reading it was that they have these big sentence structures. And at first I'd have to read something over and over several times. And this little voice would say, don't worry if you don't understand it, just keep reading. And what I began to understand was with the big paragraph and sentence structure, they're actually trying to get us to expand our mental faculties. And right now we're living in a culture where people have these little tiny attention spans. And this book is there to expand that, expand your attention span, expand your conceptual frame of reality. So it's quite it's quite a challenging read at times. That's why it's so helpful when people join study groups, because they can get a lot of support from people who have had more experience with the concepts.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Totally see that. All right. We got about 2 minutes to go here.
Yeah, it was very helpful for me when I started to get involved with the study group, because I was reading it on my own for several years, and it was slow going at times. I was slinging through philosophical mud, but it eventually did come together when I read part 4, The Life and Teachings of Jesus, which was such an easy read after some of the more difficult philosophical papers. And it was just so refreshing to read about his life that wasn't related in the Bible. It just touched my soul in so many ways that's really what changed my life.
Very nice. Very nice. We got 90 seconds.
Okay.
I'm just going to check and see if there's any more questions. I'll mark that one down, Kurt. And I think that's about it. Clear that. And big thank you to Thomas tonight, our lone super chat that we have earned. Thank you, everyone who has hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. And, of course, you can join the Space Travelers Club on Patreon. The link is in the description below on YouTube, so make sure you check that on out. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag here. Nope. You can actually wear nice stuff. And put May 10th through 12th on your calendar. You can go book your hotel rooms now. They're on sale. The Silver Legacy Casino and Resort in Reno for the third annual SOR Fan Party, May 10th through 12th, 2024. We want to see you all there soon, so go book up now. Here we go with the next half hour.
Okay.
We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate hurting your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. We continue on tonight for the final time. Donna D'Ingillo is our guest here. We're talking about URANTIA and the subject of religion and everything that goes along with it. Oh, yes, here we go. Donna, thank you for joining us. We got a bunch of questions from our audience for you here. We're going to start off with Darren on a Spreaker chat, and he is asking, let's see here. He's got a number of questions. He's wondering if you read the Law of One material.
I have not, but I am familiar with some of its concepts. And there are some similarities in the URANTIA book to what the Law of One is. And I am familiar with David Wilcock and how he is a big proponent of that. So I know a little bit about it. And I know some of people in my who are involved with the Institute of Christ Consciousness who have read it too and have told me some of the things that where it's similar and where it's a little bit different.
All right. And second question from Darren over on Spreaker, who is asking, what is the importance of forgiveness?
Oh, paramount to our growth. We know so little about the nature of reality presently, and to hold grudges against people because of our lack of understanding about the nature of another person or their motivations really only hurts us. So if we really want to self-heal, forgiveness is such a wonderful act of release of negative feelings, stress, and tension. And when we truly forgive, it gives the indwelling spirit that is our guide and our companion through life a little bit of breathing room to convey a higher insight into the nature of why we may not have wanted to forgive. It expands our perspective, but there has to be a willingness on our part to let go of resentment, anger, bitterness, because it is a cancer, an emotional cancer, and it acts as that in our bodies. So the power of forgiveness is so fundamental to our well-being, our spiritual growth, and to developing healthy relationships with others.
Love it. Love it. Okay, let's move on here. Let us go over to Paramarv. The Book of URANTIA seems to fill the gaps in of Jesus's teens and 20s before starting his ministry. Any idea where that information comes from?
As far as I know, in the beginning of part 4, the authors tell us that this was culled from some records of his life and some records from the Apostle Andrew. So it is a little bit still of a mystery, but if you think about spiritual personalities who are observing us and recording our actions, our thoughts, and our feelings, kind of like this big Akashic library, the celestial personalities can cull information from that and put it together in a larger picture. And so I believe that that is what they did. You know, there were observers watching Jesus' life and they were recording what he was doing. So they did put that in the first in part 4. They talk about his birth and infancy, all the way up to his resurrection, and then they do talk about the later evolution of Christianity. So as far as I understand, they were culling from the cosmic records of his life to put that into this beautiful expanded account of who he is and his teachings.
Okay, continuing on here. Let's go to Simon. What's the point of good and bad are equally loved? Thanks. Maybe I missed a few things.
Well, that is a really good question. And no, you didn't miss anything. But what the point I'm trying to make is because we have the gift of volition. We have the ability to make our choices. If God is a loving creator at the existential perfect level, gives us the opportunity to outwork everything that is antithetical to divine love, compassion, and peace. We get to work it out. But everyone is loved equally. But not everyone will have the same ascension path, because we are the ones who get to choose whether or not we will accept the gift of eternal life. Accepting the gift of eternal life means that we need to follow and cooperate with the divine will of our creator and the divine laws and ways of life. Now, if a person does not decide that he or she wants to do that, then they are given the choice where they can just be as if they never were. It's like, you know, in that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, where George Bailey gets to see what life would have been like if he had never been born. You become as if you never were. But if you have anything of a soul value, it kind of goes into a big cosmic oversoul. And that information is waiting to be printed into another person, another soul for expression. But not everyone will ascend if they are not willing to cooperate with the loving nature of reality and our creator. So we get to outwork that out, so that what the bad, if you will, does not keep ascending to higher levels of consciousness. It cannot, because it is vibrationally dead or a low frequency. So we get to work that out here. And that is one of the purposes for the evolutionary world. We get to work out what is good and what is evil through our own discernment, with the power of God helping us understand what are the divine principles of life and where we deviate from them. So I hope that answers your question a bit.
All right, let's continue on here to see where we go. Let's go to Kurt. How many other religious texts have you read, like the Torah, the Quran, the Book of Mormon, the Book of Enoch, Timothy, the infancy of Buddha, Scripture, and Ramayana, etc.?
I would have to say that I have not read any of them. I have read the Bible, but I have not read any of these other books. I have to say that I'm a little bit more of a URANTIA Book purist. I am aware of some of these things. For example, the Book of Enoch and some of its principles. But I would say that a lot of this information is coming from humans who have had a religious experience, and they are trying to explain that into a way that makes sense to people. The thing I liked about the URANTIA Book is that even though it is taking information from a broad spectrum of human higher consciousness, it is not coming from humans themselves. And so I felt that was to me, a higher way of understanding the nature of reality. I've looked at a few things over the course of my life, but I never really got into anything specific. So that's been my main text of enlightenment, I would say.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, let's go over to Jules here. What is the structure within this movement? Just study groups or people shepherd roles?
There are a number of study groups all over the world. The book has been translated into many different languages. There is an organizational structure that administers the publications of the book and to develop a social fraternity within the different study groups. And there's a larger aggregate called societies where they're a little bit more formalized in study groups. And then there are conferences where people will meet and gather and talk about different topics in the URANTIA book. But it's a very loose structure. In the study groups, people are welcome to attend and share their ideas as people read. There's a lot of different formats for study groups, but that has been, I would say, the main means that people find the book is by coming into study groups and studying with groups of people who have had more experience in working with the concepts over the course of their lives.
All right, let's go back to Darren here, and let's ask, what is in your opinion, what is self-actualization? And are we all one in reality?
That's kind of a hard answer to, is a question to answer, are we all one? Because I hear a lot about that in some of this higher thought consciousness. And in terms of our relationship to our Creator, we are unified as being children in this large cosmic family, but we are individuated cells, if you might say, of the body of God. When we pass on from this life, we just don't go into this gigantic metamorphic pool of energy. We retain our personality, our identity, our soul. We retain that uniqueness. But we are now in a place where we are becoming more unified and harmonized with one another, so that we're not in a place of ego posturing and jockeying for position and recognition. It is a completely different way of living. A person who is self-actualized is aware of who he and she is in relationship to the Creator, and what your sacred purpose is for your life, and what you can contribute of good and goodness and truth and beauty into the growing collective planetary mind, and then onward into the growing collective. There is a concept in the URANTIA book, and I would like to touch upon that now, because I did mention at the paradise level, there's something that is just, it's static. It doesn't change. The nature of God doesn't change. But there's also another level of God. If you consider that our Creator is everything, then it's perfect and perfecting. So there's another level of the God nature where you and I and everyone else and all different levels of spiritual personalities and celestial personalities, universe brothers and sisters, get to participate in this growing, evolving Godhead, so that we are becoming more unified within that growing evolutionary Godhead to be reflective of the nature of God. Now, this is a very big cosmic undertaking, and it's going to take billions and billions and billions of years to achieve. But you and I are participating, whether or not we recognize this, in this growing Godhead. So everything that we think and feel and act that is beautiful, truthful, and kind and good, that is adding into this growing evolutionary Godhead. The term they use in the URANTIA book is called the Supreme Being. It is the nature of how we evolve into this growing Godhead. So I hope that helps to answer the question about the self-actualization as well, because we have the ability to become perfect like God is perfect, but it's in our own unique way that our Creator is helping us grow and co-create together with us in that.
Okay, let's continue on here. Let's go over to Thomas. What can you tell us about the missing years of Jesus?
I would say read the book. The
Read
missing
the book.
years.
Read
Yeah,
the book.
yeah, read the book, read the story. Yeah, the missing years of Jesus are a beautiful account of how he became aware of who he truly was as a divine being, brought here to reveal the loving nature of God and to also show to God how humanity can perfect himself or herself, itself. And so the missing years of Jesus go into all his growing up years. He had a large family, brothers and sisters. His father, Joseph, died when he was 14. He was killed in a construction accident. And so Jesus had to take over his family and become like the father brother to his younger siblings. So he had parental experience. His mother, Mary, was pregnant with his baby sister, Ruth. And so she never knew her father, Joseph. So he had to be like a dad to her and help her grow up. You know, in the Jewish family, they were very tight knit. And so when he was in his early 20s, he started to separate himself from his family by helping his brothers take up the duties of what they call like the elder son. And he started to strike out on his own. He left the home of Nazareth. He went to live with the Zebedee family. And he became, he worked in carpentry. He was a fisherman. He went on some caravans to explore the world and to get to know the world of humanity. He went to Rome. He actually met the Emperor Tiberius. He traveled the whole Roman Empire as he was a tutor for the wealthy son of an Indian merchant. And so he amassed a tremendous amount of life experience. And as he went along the way, he got to know how humans live and truly live and work, because it was part of his divine persona to understand the nature of the actual beings that he creates. So there's a tremendous amount of information about the missing years of his life. And then it goes into the period between his his public ministry and when he made that decision to strike out on his own, and what his plan was, you know, to help humanity understand the nature of God. So it's a very comprehensive view of his missing years. And if you're interested to know about Jesus, it is a very, very wonderful story, and it's easy to read. And the wisdom in his teachings will knock your socks off, because it's something that it's never been revealed before, and it's so beautiful. It will just touch your heart and soul in new places. So I highly recommend that you read it.
Okay, let's continue on here. And we got another question, I believe, from Darren. Is there a part of us that is divinely identical in all of us?
Yes. Yes. That is our spirit. It is, I would say it's identical in function, but it is not identical in how it is ministering to us, because we are unique identity. We are unique individuals. We have a unique identity, and it is trying to help us become more cooperative with the divine nature. But the divine nature is basically identical. It's just how it functions in us is individual to our particular biology, our particular mindal inheritance, if you will, the cultural conditioning that we have. So it's both identical in nature, but not in function because of our own uniqueness. I hope that answers the question.
All right, we got 3 more questions here for you. This one comes from Big J. Is there credence when it's said how we are put here to heal?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I think we're all here to heal and help one another become better people. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole nature of human purpose, to develop our souls and to be of loving service to one another. And I do want to make a mention here about the gospel that Jesus preached became diverted from his original message. Jesus' original gospel is very simple: faith in the creator parent of all and loving service to the family of humanity. And that's it, basically. I'm kind of restating it, but that's basically it in a nutshell. So we are all here to heal and help one another become better versions of ourselves.
Okay, moving on here. Let's go to Scan Man. Does the book advocate a world government under God?
It does, but it does in a way that is something that we evolve into. And we are supposed to evolve a world government that is a representative type of government, not the type of over-controlled top-down of this world order that they're trying to foist upon us. It would be more or less based on the model of the United States, where there is an elected government, but everyone is now coming together in different regions to select what you might call like a world congress. And so we have representative government, but it would be shared by the world. So there would be no more wars. We would end all these ideological conflicts because we would be all unified under the fact that we were all sons and daughters of God, that we all have our unique purpose, and we are all here to harmonize and cooperate with one another to make this world a better place for everyone.
Awesome. Okay, 2 more questions. This one comes from Big J. Was Jesus ever a Melchizedek?
Yes. Yes, he was, but he was in a previous incarnation. The URANTIA book talks about who Jesus was and his divine persona. And he was actually the creator of our universe. And one of his responsibilities as a creator sovereign, in order to gain sovereignty over his domain, he had to undergo 7 bestowals of the actual creatures, the actual children he creates. The Melchizedeks are the universe teachers. And he did incarnate as a Melchizedek, but he did not incarnate as a Melchizedek on this world. He only incarnated as a human on this world. But there are Melchizedeks on this world presently of the universe teaching order to help us understand and open to these higher universe principles so that we can create this higher planetary culture that we're in the throes of developing right now as we let go of these old beliefs that have separated us from the rest of our universe family and our creator.
All right, final question from our audience. We have 2 minutes to go here. Let's go to Mama Catherine. Did Jesus marry?
No, he did not. And he could marry, but he could not leave progeny. So he made a conscious decision when he was around the age of 19. There was a young woman who was very much in love with him, and she wanted to marry him, but he knew that he could not leave progeny. So because that would have set up it would have been a default of his mission. He was not supposed to leave progeny because he did not want to be the object of worship, or any of his children an object of worship. So he did not marry.
All right. With a minute to go here, I want to say a big thank you, Donna, for coming on in here and generating a very interesting topic with us. And it's the first time we've talked about URANTIA on this show. And it's going to be interesting to see how the audience reacts to it, because it's always interesting. But tell everybody where they can find your work, please.
You can find me at the Institute of Christ Consciousness at institutechristconsciousness.org. There's no of in the URL, institutechristconsciousness.org. And my email is simply donna@institutechristconsciousness.org. And please check out the website and our offerings, the books that I've written, especially the new one, The Women Who Love Jesus, which is a spiritual account of the women apostles that Jesus commissioned and their spiritual story and their relationship with him. There's a lot of information there. I've tried to take some of the bigger concepts in the URANTIA book and just make them a lot more easily accessible to people to understand.
All right, Donna D'Ingillo, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio. We very much appreciate you taking the time. Coming
Thank
up
you so much,
next,
Dave.
we have Steve Stockton from Among the Missing. Then, right after that, Courtney Marcassani is here with another great UFO report. Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio coming at you right after this. All right, Donna, thank you so much for coming on the
Thank
show.
you so much, Dave. That was a lot of fun, and I hope your viewers enjoyed it. And maybe I'll get the comments tomorrow. You never know.
Absolutely. I'm sure people have a lot of fun with it. They usually do.
And will you send me the links to all those other things like Spotify and all those other apps?
Yeah, all they have to do is type out Spaced Out Radio on Spotify and everything, and it'll come up as the first one there.
Okay, super. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Good
God
night,
bless you. Bye-bye
Good night.
now.
All right. That's Donna D'Ingillo there. And Courtney's looking wide awake. Her hair looks fantastic. I'm going to take a quick break here. I'll be right back, everybody. All right. We're almost ready, guys. We're almost ready. We're going to introduce our new friend, Courtney, to a little tradition here in the next little bit. Yeah, because we always have to. We haven't done this in a while, so we're going to introduce her to it, if I don't forget. All right. Let's hide that. All right, we got just under a minute to go here. And a reminder to all of you, Super Chat is open. Thank you to Thomas for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. We very much appreciate it. And a big thank you to all of you who are new here, tuning us in for the first time. Don't forget to hit subscribe, ring that bell, because we are here 7 days a week for your listening audience. And you can go to our website, spacedoutradio.com. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Yes, I am wearing Crocs tonight. If you don't believe me, there they are. Look how ugly these things are. They are as comfortable as anything. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Wayage. Wayage is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. It is that time of the night where we say hello to Steve Stockton from the YouTube channel Among the Missing for another spooky story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. We have Jack Thomas, who went missing from the Sawtooth Range in 2016. In 2016, a 66-year-old hiker, Jack Thomas, went missing while exploring the Sawtooth Range in the Rocky Mountains. Despite the efforts of Boise and Elmore County officials, who searched for Jack for 2 weeks near the Queens River trailhead, he was not found. Jack had used a satellite GPS device to share his location on June 15th, but failed to return as planned the next day. A 2-week search for Jack ended without finding a trace of the missing hiker. 7 years later, his remains were finally found. According to Boise County Sheriff Scott Turner, backcountry hikers located some of Jack's personal items in late July of 2023. They shared the GPS location of a wallet, clothing, and a hiking boot with Elmore County officials, who determined the location was over the Boise County line. Thanks to the recovered items, Turner stated they were 99.9% certain they'd located Jack. Turner said it took a few weeks to coordinate a search effort. The agency hired Sawtooth Outfitters to lead Boise County Sheriff's Detective Max Sprague, Boise County Coroner Pam Garlock, U.S. Forest Service law enforcement personnel, Idaho Mountain Search and Rescue officials, and a cadaver dog to the site where the items were found. In an interview, The medical examiner said she could accurately identify Jack's remains due to the serial number on a medical device used in a knee replacement. She said Jack probably succumbed to hypothermia due to a fall. Next up, Ian O'Brien, who went missing from Hesperus Mountain in 2023. Ian O'Brien, a 28-year-old experienced outdoorsman and former field guide for Open Sky Wilderness Therapy and camp counselor, set out on a solo hike on June 24, 2023, to explore a path to the peak of Hesperus Mountain. He was intimately familiar with the rugged wilderness surrounding the area. Ian texted a picture of himself at the summit to his partner, Beth Henshaw, at 6 p.m. Soon after that, his cell phone and GPS tracker went dead. When he failed to return that night, Beth and friends Ashley and Mike Higgs alerted authorities. Crews began looking for Ian almost as soon as he went missing. Search efforts included dozens of boots on the ground, drones, canines, all-terrain vehicles, and multiple helicopters, including Air Force Blackhawks. Ian packed only essentials for a day trip: shorts, a tank top, his cell phone, GPS, a day pack with snacks, water, and his epilepsy medication. On September 2, 2023, at 1:40 p.m., the Montezuma County Sheriff's Office was notified that human remains had been discovered by two persons fishing in the remote area of the West Mancos River in the Echo Basin area of the San Juan National Forest, which was an area that had been extensively searched. On September 7th, the Montezuma County coroner determined the cause and manner of death to be accidental drowning. Ian's family said in an online statement, "While this is not the outcome any of us wanted, we are at peace that we have found him, and it gives us closure."
Thank you to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing for another third hour of kicking off with a creepy story. Yeah, you can find more just like that by going to youtube.com/Among the Missing and get dozens of stories just like that for free. So make sure you go visit his channel. From the mysterious to the mysteries of the universe, it's a UFO report with Courtney Marcassani.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
Courtney, it's been another news day filled with David Grusch, and guess what? Even more David Grusch. I mean, are we at the point with this guy here? Okay, we talked about him just the other night. Are we at the point with this guy here that, he is the official face of the UFO franchise? We're going to get you to unmute, my friend.
I don't know what's going on, but the interview that he did with the Italian researchers and the military guy that came out today, I've watched it twice looking for kernels and information. And I mean, there's just some bombshells in there. I mean, I'm just astonished that he goes into the Atomic Energy Commission. He validates Corso's story. He goes into biologics again and talks about bodies. I mean, I'm just floored. I mean, anybody who watches this interview can't be floored at the things that he's saying. So if you're thinking franchise, I'm not thinking franchise. I'm going the other direction.
Wait, okay, what's the direction you're going then? Where are you going with this?
I mean, I think that he's dropping some serious knowledge. I mean, he's talking about the Energy Commission. I mean, we know from all of our research that the Energy Commission is Battelle and the contractors for uranium and the Atomic Energy Commission. I mean, this is huge that he dropped that in this recent interview. So a lot of people had already been making those connections and weaving that together. But the fact that he validated it and this whole transnational secrets are tied into that, I thought that was a bombshell. So,
okay, I want to slow this down a little bit because we're going to get into this a lot tonight. We really are, because of the importance of it all. So, for our audience who doesn't know, David Grusch recently had an interview with which can be seen on YouTube, with Italy's representatives from ICER. So basically, they're MUFON type group, and with Paolo Gizzardi being on the panel, along with a gentleman named Roberto Pignati, president of the International Coalition for Extraterrestrial Research and the Italian Center for UFO Research. So what is going on here? Because the first question I have for you regarding this is, a couple of years ago, we saw Lou Elizondo and Tom DeLonge meet with these same groups when they were part of the
Yes.
To the Stars Academy.
Yes.
What does Italy have to do with UFOs?
Because they have the 1933 crash information, and it was documented, and it was put into a category of another fraud, and that it wasn't a serious case. And so when we saw TTSA meet with them, they wanted to know what the Americans know. And they were asking Lou Elizondo, well, what more can you tell us about, not only our crash, but what's happening in the United States? And, in the camera shot that they did with them at the table, Lou just didn't give anything away. It was kind of, they were like crestfallen because they wanted to know more about it. But now, think about it now with what Grusch is saying, and that he's validating the case, and he's going even much further. So, Lou was obviously knowing, right, on some level, or knowing that was going to come out in the future. And so it is orchestrated. I mean, you have to look at this as chess pieces on the board that are being played. And so I am inclined to, my jaw was dropping when I was watching that recent interview with the Italians, with everything that he was connecting.
Okay, so my question to you, to follow up with this interview then, is, is David Grusch holding back information and giving us morsels at a time? Or is he actually being given, in your opinion, new information to parse out to different outlets?
He has a lot of information. He's not telling us a lot. He is saying next year is going to be a year where things are going to hit a new level, and there's not going to be any stopping it. So I'm not exactly sure what that event is. He's not the only one that said it. Other insiders have said that 2024 is going to be the year for disclosure. And so the fact that that's coming out, for people who've been in the game for a while, they're like, yeah, whatever. We've heard that all before, but I think we have to kind of take it with a new seriousness after what's come to light in this last year, and the hearing, and what's happening, and that there's so much pressure, especially with the change out of the leadership of Arrow. I think that 2024 might actually be promising for a year of disclosure. And since David Grusch is saying that something that is going to happen in 2024 that's going to be game changing, I'm inclined to believe it.
Yeah, I have been hearing things too, that 2024 is supposed to be a power year for ufology, but I'm taking it with a grain of salt. We've heard it all before. It just, what makes it different? And nobody is giving any insights whatsoever in regards to this. And I will say this, I don't know how you feel about it, because we are still just getting to know each other on this program and for what we do. But I have always been a real keen believer the last couple of years, as there is a real bona fide difference between disclosure and confirmation of the phenomena. How do
Right.
you feel about that? Do you feel we are in a disclosure movement, or do you feel we are in a confirmation movement?
We're still in confirmation. And my feeling of looking at the phases, I think full disclosure would be, okay, we know non-human intelligence exists. We know that these different kinds of ways that they appear. We know that they use these different kinds of crafts, and it would be a full public awareness campaign if it's a full disclosure. That's the way I look at disclosure, that everybody's aware. It's not a conspiracy anymore. People aren't on the fence. People aren't going, oh, those wacky people over there. People are going, oh my God, there's another civilization. That's disclosure for me, full tilt disclosure. So I do think we're getting closer to it. Will 2024 revelations? I'm sure there will be. I'm sure there's going to be some. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more sightings and probably a lot more videos released. And I think that non-human intelligence will be established. I'm gonna put that out there.
Yeah, I have to wonder as well, because I'm still believing that, as long as we are continuing and there are people now, even though it's died off, that there is this threat narrative going on. Anytime we hear the word narrative, that tells me we're not close to any sort of disclosure movement, because that tells me that there's still a lot of secrets that are out there that they are not, or that they are protecting for whatever reasons, whether it's for political reasons, whether it's for military reasons, whether it's for reasons of breaking the law. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's been a lot of law breaking over the course of the last 70 years.
He talked about wet work with the Italians on the video. He talked about assassinations and that he hadn't had a firsthand experience with someone who had experienced someone having assassination, but he talked with people and got testimony for people for the UAP task force of people who knew people who had gone missing on their job. I mean, how terrifying to have somebody that you work with and they just go missing on the job. And then, that's considered wet work and assassination. So yeah, there are serious crimes that have been committed. And he alludes to that. He alludes to it directly. He alluded to it in the hearing. He talks about it. And I think these things that are so refreshing and they're not just conspiracy theory anymore is what is leads me to believe that there will be more revelations and that we'll have more information. Now, will we get a full disclosure? I hope so. I hope so. And I have been one that I was so cynical, Dave, 2 years ago. I was so at the bottom of the barrel and like, I'm so done. But I'm just feeling new life with all of these new things that are coming out. And you have to pay attention. That's the other thing. You really have to pay attention to what was talked about in the hearing and what was discussed and what was a no-go. And then you have to compare with what's happened now. And there have been in that video some new bits of information, and he's making more connections. And you have to make those connections too. You have to be listening, and then you have to be doing your own research. So I'm excited today about it because I saw that video and I was just, my jaw was dropped. I couldn't get over it.
Okay, in those new bits of information, what really stood out for you regarding what you haven't heard so far?
He talked about the transnational secrets that are overlaid with the Manhattan Project. He talked about it. He explained how people can track it. That also goes back to the nuclear arms agreement that he mentioned in the hearing and where to find it. And so you can go back to the C-SPAN hearing and type in certain keywords and it'll pull up that section of the audio from the hearing so you can see it and find it. And he tells people exactly where to find the document. Now, the US arms thing with Russia was all about how to notify one another if they had a UFO sighting so that they wouldn't launch a nuke because they thought it was some kind of incoming unknown weapon. And so he established that at the hearing. So people who were savvy could go and find that paperwork. I think it was in Georgetown University. Anyway, so then in this interview, new information that comes to light is he basically explains how the secrecy has worked with UFO secrecy and that it was built into the Atomic Energy Commission through this transnational secret thing that the US uses. If there's a secret and it's an international secret, they build it into a certain area of the government, which keeps it a secret because it was taken from a foreign place. And so it's a way to hide it because they want to keep that secret to the US. So he broke that all down, explained how the Manhattan Project was overlaid over it. And I thought that was incredible. I mean, we've had conversations about this in our groups for a long time about Battelle Industries and mining for uranium and the Atomic Energy Commission and how it's all connected to the Department of Energy. And he said 100% validated that, not conspiracy anymore. He said that's where it is. So I think that's a huge, huge development for people who have been working on this for a long time. It's very validating. That's why I'm so happy tonight. I'm like, yay, Yay! We were on the right track.
Okay, and I agree with your excitement. And by the way, it is probably that time of the night when we're getting into all this woo that we should welcome in all the agents and agencies to tonight's show who are listening in. Give us a call sometime because we don't need to give you the number. You already have Courtney's number. You already have my number. So just ring us up, okay, and say hello. And don't forget that some of us maybe can or cannot be bought. I don't know. But we just want to welcome in all the agents and agencies right about now.
The alphabet agencies. Welcome, my friends.
Absolutely.
They're always listening.
I do. You know what? I was told once on 2 different occasions that there are a minimum of 3 NSA people listening to this show each and every night.
Well, do you think that's because they're interested in the topic, or do you think it's because they're monitoring us, or both? Is it a 2?
I was told specifically that it's because of there's more who listen in when it's a UFO topic and a monster topic, and that they are tuned in to hear what new information or what BS is being said at this time. And that's
okay.
yes.
All right.
So depending on the guest, okay, they listen and monitor a lot of shows. Like there are people literally paid to listen to podcasts and radio
Really?
shows. Just to
get that
monitor.
gig. How do you get that gig?
Well, I mean, but here's the thing. Let's say you have a conversation with David Grusch, and let's say that as I wear my NSA hat here in full support, thank you, Charlie, for the hat, by the way. Mama Susan, love you. And let's say we say something that David Grusch hasn't said out in public yet. Well, they're going through our words to see what we're saying.
Sure.
And that's not, and for our audience listening in, it's easy to say, oh, that's conspiracy theory. They're not listening in. What are they going to, what's a radio show going to do? But this is straight from people's mouths that there are a minimum of 3 listening at all times when we talk UFOs. So that's why we say hello to the agents and agencies tuning us in.
Well, I've never had any serious problems, I have to say. I mean, I have had questions, and I definitely know who folks are. I mean, they're in our groups, and people are, sometimes open and say, I've been contacted by, intelligence officers. And so it's just kind of comes with the territory. But I didn't know that NSA listens to your program, at least 3 of them.
Yeah. It's kind of cool, eh?
It's very cool. I mean, at least you're getting them listening in, and hopefully we'll be educating them if they're not already super educated about what's happening in these topics.
I know who 2 of them and 2 of them are, and they haven't been in our chat. One has been in our chat room recently. The other one has not. I haven't figured out the third one yet. So I'm trying.
You will. Yeah, you will.
Trying. But it works out. We're going to continue this conversation about David Grusch here because I think it's important that we do that. But we are only about 45 seconds away from our break at the bottom of the hour. And, the important question that I want to ask you, and I want you to think about this during the break, is there's a good possibility, I'm playing devil's advocate here, that David Grusch is either A, leading us on and leaving little clues along the way, or B, he is part of a psyop that could be out there to try and lead us down one or different directions of ufology. I want to get your opinion on this before we get to story number 2 later on in the next half hour of an airplane, an airliner had a close encounter with a UFO, not a UAP, a UFO. Courtney Marcassani is here for the UFO report on Spaced Out Radio. We will be right back right after this. There we go. We are clear.
So what are you doing that's new? Did you put when you put the hat on?
Yes, it's my NSA hat. See,
Mhm.
Mama Catherine in our chat room, who I absolutely love and adore, and my mother passed away in June, so I have adopted her as my new mom. She lives in
Mm.
Atlanta, and her and her son Charlie came to our fan party last year in Las Vegas. And so Charlie is a linguist for the NSA.
Oh,
I
wow.
can't say what he does or what have you,
Fascinating.
but he is a linguist for the NSA, and he is a brilliant man. And he brought me this beautiful NSA cap because Tim and I used to every night we'd say, "And we welcome in all the agents and agencies," and we'd
Oh.
wave at them, and I've never got the phone call.
I'm
I,
surprised. I'm so
I have
surprised you haven't gotten a phone call or an email or some kind of funny thing. I'm watching you.
never have, never have.
Wow.
Well, you know what though? I can say this, and I've said this to the audience, and I know a few members of my audience don't like it when I say this. You know what? Pay off my mortgage. It's all I'm
Yes.
asking.
I've heard you say that before too.
You want me to shut up? You want me to shut up? Pay off my debt, pay off my mortgage, and Dave goes away a happy guy. Right now, I'm not saying that Dave isn't going to start a new channel,
Right.
but on the flip side, it might be something about growing green beans and sprouts. You know, I don't know. You
That
know,
was very Canadian the way you said that. Sprouts. You got a Canadian thing. I like it.
yeah, I am Canadian.
I know you are. It comes out sometimes like sprouts and about.
Oh
It's
yes.
we're
So
talking about the linguistics.
yes. So my stepbrother Charlie, because I've adopted his mom now, so we're
Mhm.
stepbrothers now.
Mhm.
He has he brought me this hat from the NSA, and I wear it proudly each time I say that. So now that you're part of the group, you'll see me all of a sudden switch hats during the night and welcome in our agents and agencies.
I'm on board. I have to get a hat now. I have to get a 3-letter agency hat. So that it's
Yes.
I'm manifesting that. I'm putting that out into the universe. Please bring me
Well,
my
when you come to our fan party, May 10th through 12th in Reno, I am going to we're going to convince Charlie. I think Mama Catherine still might be listening, but we're going to convince Charlie to get you an NSA hat too.
very cool. Well, I saw the photos of the Vegas party. Boy, that looked like it was a happening time.
Oh yes,
Yes.
it was an absolute blast. I'm just trying to see here. Hold
It looked
on.
like it was off the hook fun.
You know what? It was very tame, but
Really?
it was a lot of great fun. It really was, and I cannot wait. And you know what? For our listeners, I highly recommend that you take the opportunity to join us and be there with us because it is honestly so much fun. When you're hanging out, there's one point where I get kind of emotional during the entire time, and that is um, we have a VIP party. Kira on our team put together a beautiful VIP party at one of the lounges inside Golden Nugget, and it overlooked the entire um, the old strip, which is now
Wow.
Fremont Street. Okay.
Wow.
And for me, I just stood in the middle, and honestly, I had a couple of tears in my eyes because I just took it all in, and watching our listeners intermingle with the SOR people, but we also bring in a bunch of of our guests. Everybody pays their own way. Like I'm paying my own way. Science Bob is paying his own way. It's not like a conference. It's just a get together to show appreciation for fans and guests, and to watch, like there was one picture. I was trying to find it here for you. Um, like you look on the couch here. Um, You got listeners intermixed with Melinda Leslie and Bob and Jim Goodall and Lala and everybody else. Les Velez was there. Many others were there as well. Geraldine Orozco, random guy, and a number of others. And watching everybody just intermix, it was awesome. Here we go. Hold on. We're into the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. The UFO Report with Courtney Marcassani continues right now. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in. Reminder to all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon by joining the SOR Space Travelers Club. We're talking David Grusch here. Is he somebody who is towing the line, or is it something different? Courtney is here with us tonight. And right before the break, Courtney, I was mentioning to you about, I think there's a couple different sides that we have to go down with David Grusch. And number one side is he leading us down a path and dropping clues? Like Lou Elizondo, the one thing that I learned to respect from him, and a lot of people used to say, oh, Lou doesn't say anything on interviews. I used to get a lot. He dropped a lot of Easter eggs if you knew how to read between the lines, number one. But number two, with David Grusch, do we see him doing the exact same thing? Or do you think that his handlers, whether it's governmental or private, like Peter Thiel, his handlers are the ones kind of helping him drop information? What's your thoughts on this?
No, I think there are strict guidelines for what he can drop, or he goes to jail. I think that there are serious penalties for him stepping outside the lines. And you've seen it with Lou too. They just can't go past a certain mark in the sand, or they go to jail. And so I think that he is trying his best to put out, I guess Easter eggs would be a good way to look at it, but he's trying to drop bits of information. I mean, the Italians asked him about the Corso story, and the Corso story has been so hotly debated, so contested. I mean, experts have said that half of it's fake, and that there's parts of it that are credible and parts of it that aren't. And I heard David Grusch today say that part of Corso's story is definitely validated, and that he didn't ever meet him. He was, too young, but he basically was validating Corso's story. He said he couldn't validate the whole thing and all the nuances of it, but that is so important for him to validate that piece of work. And you do have to read between the lines, and you do have to know all the backstory behind Corso and what he wrote. It's a great book. But numerous things he went on the record about that I think are very important for the UFO community. For one, to keep it intact, but two, to help people that are trying to get more information and feel hopeful about the future. I got a lot out of his interview that he did. It was pretty remarkable. So no, I don't think he's a patsy. I think he has to be careful or he'll get in trouble.
Why do you think the UFO community is so hard on David Grusch?
Because of, I think, a couple different reasons. I think that the way he presents The way he presents his feelings and his mannerisms, for one, are a little different. And so I think that he's not as easy when he's being interviewed. He's getting better, but I think that, for one, he's not fluid at times, and he has a bit of a different kind of cadence when he speaks. So that can't be underestimated, right? His presence somehow makes people feel uncomfortable. But I think, too, that it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that he could get as far as he has. And I think people look at that and say, well, it's just a psyop. It's not real. And I think the reason why that is because all the dissension that has been sown in the UFO community, that nobody believes anything is real. I mean, Jacques Vallée said you can't trust anything past the 80s because it's so muddled. And so we're so ingrained in that feeling of not trusting and not believing anything that we're willing to throw him under the bus. But I'm not yet.
Okay. What would be, or where do we, no, sorry, I'm just trying. I've got so many thoughts going through my head at once here. Okay. Let me ask you this regarding evidence. People want evidence. David Grusch is somebody who is filled with anecdotal evidence, a lot of hearsay, a lot of finger pointing, a lot of information that we will never see because it's already been passed over to Congress and other areas that are going to benefit this on a governmental side. We have to take his word for it. And a lot of people are not happy with having to take another trust me, bro type situation, Courtney. So where do we draw the line on this? With how do we know he's telling the truth? Because in the end, the majority of us are not experienced with agents or agencies. We think we know, but we have no clue.
I had somebody say to me one time, we were just having a friendly chat, and he looked at me all seriously and he said, if there was an agent right next to you, you would never know it. And so I thought that was really insightful because we don't know how infiltrated the community is. We don't know how deep it goes. I think that the fact that he said he has named buildings, he has named where the biologics are. He has said this openly, that he has said this is where these bits of evidence are. So those kind of things are the things he took to the ICIG to say, I need protection, because he couldn't get any further into the UAP task force than he already had. He was seeing that there was going to be blockages. And I think in some ways he probably saw his career was having to be sacrificed. So I think that he has named where evidence is.
He's named where it is, but it hasn't got into the public view yet.
No, but I don't know that we can blame him for that. I think our government is so messed up that it's not his fault because of the covert secret programs that he's trying to bring to light. So I would take the other approach and say he has named things, he has provided evidence, and the ICIG found it credible. He said that he was vulnerable. And so they saw that the evidence was maybe possibly going to be used against him. And that's why he went for the whistleblower protection. So I think all those things are actually the chain of command that he followed until he didn't have anywhere else to go.
Well, and I can see where you say that. I personally believe him. Okay. I think he is one of the most intriguing people out there right now. I'll tell you what I don't like about him is the fact that his handlers have come out of nowhere acting like professional sports agents in controlling who he talks to and who he doesn't within the UFO community. And if the rumor is true that if you want to do an interview with him, it's around $3,000 to $5,000.
Oh wow, I hadn't heard that.
I have an issue with that. Now, that's all speculation that I have heard over the last few weeks
Wow.
regarding him, but I mean, does a guy named like David Grusch need handlers?
Well, I think because of the fact that he was so vulnerable.
We're just waiting for Courtney's Skylink to hook back up again. Yes. Once that happens, we'll be good. Usually takes about 30 seconds or so before it hooks back up. So we'll bring her back in here momentarily once everything reconnects. But what do you think? Do you think David Grusch is being a little bit heavy-handed with his handlers? Do you think that they are trying to obfuscate the story and control what he says and what he does not say? Your thoughts on that? I mean, that's a deep question right there, because we're hoping that this guy is the face of the franchise for ufology. But are we allowed to understand whether or not what he's saying is true? Are they going to allow us to have that opportunity rather than another trust me, bro type situation? Now, for all intents and purposes, I will tell you right now, as I stated just a few minutes ago, I am on David Grusch's team. Not personally, but I believe that he is trying to get the story out there. I believe that he is trying his best through his means to advance this subject. I think a lot of the issue, along with the paperwork that he has provided in hearings, goes at the fault of government agencies and the hearings that go along with it, because one thing about it is we've heard government officials talk about transparency. And you can't be transparent if you're not being transparent with the information. So, Courtney, we welcome you back here. And one of the things I was saying while your Starlink rehooked up was the fact that we have, I believe, David Grusch. I believe he's provided information to Congress and other agencies that have asked for it. Okay, but the problem that we have, once again, is it falls down on the face of the word transparency that gets thrown around by congressional people and senators very frequently, but we never see that transparency arise in the public. So do you think he being Grusch is caught in a catch-22, that he wants people to see the evidence, but it's being withheld?
Yes. Yes. I mean, he said as much. He has said that he was pushing for transparency and trying to get the evidence and show where the IRADs were being spent and how they were going to the contractors. And he provided a lot of it. He provided a lot of information in the hearing for people to follow up on that hadn't had exposure. I mean, it was groundbreaking in so many ways. And I think that this latest interview is just providing more. And I think more is going to come out. We just have to be patient. And I think that he has wanted transparency. And I think he was willing to fall on the sword essentially to bring it. So
do you
his
think
actions show that.
Do you think, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions about him before we move on to our next story. Do
Okay.
you think then that his life is in danger?
Well, I definitely did. After the hearing and everything, I just felt a certain type of tension building. And, the other two pilots said that they didn't have bad experiences. I thought that was the contrast that was really interesting when he was talking about all the threats, all the intimidation. He experienced it personally. He had had coworkers who had experienced it. He talked about it in this interview today with the Italian guys, where he said that he talked with witnesses who had experienced people disappearing on the job. And so that's pretty frightening. And so it tells you how risky it is to, take this approach that he's taking. And so he did say that he was threatened. I do think that it is part of this whole world to use those kind of tactics. I have one friend who's a researcher who was really close friends with Edgar Mitchell, and Edgar said at one time, well, they're not whacking people anymore. Well, I'm not sure that's true. I think they have been whacking people. And I think that it's been going on for a really long time. And I think that's one of the really big reasons why they can't let things be transparent, because of how deep it goes and how ugly it is.
Yeah, and I would agree with you on that. And I want to just a comment that was in our chat room. Are we cheerleaders now? No, it's not about being cheerleaders for David Grusch
No.
or cheerleaders for the topic. It's about trying to take that step forward. And our job that Courtney and I do, and Tim and I did, was to try and read between the lines of what ufology isn't seeing. Okay, and kind of try and direct you in what we believe is the proper way to look at this subject, because it is very, very difficult to maneuver through this. I mean, it would be like driving a Formula One car, and every second turn, every 50 feet is a chicane that you got to turn left and then right. And then you go on a 50-foot straightaway, and then another chicane, and then another chicane. I mean, that's how ugly this story truly is for the public. And it's easy to conceive that the public is having a tough time trying to figure out who to believe and who not to believe, Courtney.
Oh, well, if you just look into the World War II stuff, and when the Atomic Energy Commission was started and how the contractors came in, right? And who ended up coming on the scene, and then how it was supposed to be deregulated, and then how it ended up in, nowadays, what the Department of Energy is. That is a whole, that minutia just in the Atomic Energy Commission takes so long to research, so long to study. And I liked that Grusch mentioned it in the interview. And the only reason why is because I'd looked into that for so long, trying to understand, why are they hiding it here? Why are all the secrets and all the secrecy in the Atomic Energy Commission? And when he validated that, I was like, well, good. It's not like I'm cheerleading, but it was a validation for me for so long, looking into that and going, is this a dead end? Is Battelle Industries a dead end? They're not. And he just validated it. So I'm not really cheerleading. I'm kind of saying, give me more, give me more information, and how can I make my research work and maximize what I've already done?
All right, let's get to another story here. We got about 4 minutes to go here. And this was a story that just popped up. Ryanair, maybe you've flown on it, maybe you haven't, apparently came within just 20 meters of a UFO, according to a police log. Now, it had just taken off from Stansted Airport in Essex in the UK when the pilot spotted a black object at 4,000 feet. The sighting last year came to light following a Freedom of Information request to Essex police. The object passed within 20 meters of the craft. The plane was traveling at 230 miles per hour, and the object was traveling from north to south. They have said that it was possibly a drone, but the drone monitoring equipment at the airport hadn't picked it up. The log records, the log records of a potential UFO last year were also put into question because at that time, 3 aircraft spotted an object in their vicinity. In the 2 of the reports, an object was picked up on the plane's traffic collision avoidance system at 500 feet when they were about to land, but the pilots themselves couldn't see anything. I mean, this just sounds like another strange report that we are getting into, and we're going to see a lot more of these coming forward. Vague objects in the sky. We don't know if they're a drone. We don't know if it's a UFO. Your thoughts?
Well, I thought it was interesting that the warning went off and that it was so close, and that it was this black object that couldn't be seen, but it was picked up with the warning system. I think that we're going to see a lot more of it. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're going to have more information coming out, because we're going to see more of it and it can't be contained anymore. And so I think it's going to hit critical mass, and there's going to be more and more sightings and more near misses. And I also think, this is a bit of a prediction, but I also think with what's going on in the Middle East, there's going to be a lot more reports. Remember when there was that Israeli guy who worked in their version of NASA, and he said that there was, yeah, he said there was a program, and he said the United States knows it and we know it. And I think that's going to come out. I think more of the Israeli-US connection is going to be coming out in the 6 months.
Do you think it's a good thing that we have commercial pilots talking about this stuff? Before it was always so vague, and it was a hush hush thing. When all reports of the United States are supposed to go to Bigelow Aerospace, we never got anything out of them regarding these reports. Does it matter? Does it matter?
Yes, it matters that commercial airline pilots are talking about this stuff, because they see it and their passengers see it. There needs to be reporting mechanisms for commercial pilots. And finally, they are talking about it. And they have, the AIAA has been established for a long time and have been taking reporting from commercial pilots, but there's other ways too. So I think that it's very important that commercial pilots are reporting, because they weren't for a long time. So yes, we need to, because it's safety. It's air safety.
I would agree with you on that. And, at some point, we're going to have to get into the conversation about the public, because the public, like you, like me, is still being very ignored on our own sightings, our own interactions with these craft, with potential of extraterrestrial contact. When do you see this, as we got about 30 seconds? When do you see this coming to fruition?
Well, I think it's already happening now. Look at Peter Thiel. Doesn't he have an app now that you can, and so does Stephen Greer. They have these private commercialized apps that you can download into your phone. So I think that's already happening. Whether it will happen at a national level and people to trust it, I think that's going to take a while.
Courtney Marcassani on the UFO Report tonight. Another great one filled with solid information. Courtney, we will talk to you in a couple of nights' time. And we want to say a big thank you to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing for another great report. And our guest tonight, Donna D'Ingillo, for coming on in talking about Urantia. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter or X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. That was a good show. Oh, Courtney Marcassani, where did you go? Oh, maybe she had to go. Maybe she was tired. was a good show. Let's take these off. I'm just going to text her here quickly. I'll just type her out on Facebook here. Oh, no, she's gone for the night. She's logged off. Courtney definitely does have better hair than Tim. Not going to lie. Not going to lie about that. You know, all of a sudden it got really warm in the studio and like I'm like sweating in here. Interesting show. Oh, she's answering. See what she says. I wanted to, but my internet cut out. You can join back in if you wish. She says next time connectivity will be better. Okay. Up to you. All right, Courtney is not going to join us. All right, let's zoom in here. Right there. That's where it starts. Right there. All right. Any questions, comments? Let's chat. While Dave is editing away. Von Patrick, I didn't get to say this during the show, but sorry about the loss of your mom. I know what that's like all too well this year. No, depopulation isn't coming soon. I am vaping Boss Blueberry. Just changed over from strawberry. Depends what kind of fruitcake. The traditional stuff, all depends. There's always something bitter in there that I don't like. By the way, this is for my American listeners. Okay. We're going to have a serious talk here for a second, America. Okay. We are approximately, hold on. Look at my calendar here. We are approximately a week and a bit away from Thanksgiving. Okay. Now, America, there's a few things that us outsiders look forward to each and every year around this time. We look forward to the overabundance of patriotism. We look forward to the fact that you brag about killing turkeys, because we do it up here in Canada too, and Dave likes a good turkey every now and again. Okay. But we got to get back to the basics here a little bit, America. We do. The past couple years has been a real yawner when it comes to Black Friday. Now, don't give me this COVID crap that COVID was the one that kind of shut things down. Okay. We got to get back to punching and kicking and screaming and fighting and biting and scratching and tackling on Black Friday. We have to. Okay. It's been a little disappointed here the last couple of years where some of us go on the books. We're trying to find a good brawl happening during Black Friday, but nothing's happening. America, this is tradition like apple pie and NFL football. Okay? If you guys aren't going to smarten up about Black Friday, get the hell out of America. Seriously. Where did you guys go? Half the nation turns woke, and all of a sudden you don't want to be brawling in the Walmarts or the Targets anymore, or Best Buy or Trader Joe's or Dick's Sporting Goods. People, don't give me this online crap. You guys get to the mall, get to your favorite store, okay, and you start beating the living shit out of people. That's what we need, America. You guys want to talk about being back on top? Start beating the piss out of each other on Black Friday again. That's the America I like. No guns, no wild rampage shootings, no stabbings, no nothing. A good hardcore fisticuffs between 80-year-old grandmothers and 21-year-olds trying to get their television. Okay? That's what we need. Okay? This online shopping stuff has absolutely ruined you guys. And it wasn't that long ago, America, where we could see the good stuff happening. No, Paramarv, it isn't up to the Canadians to bail you out again. Okay? It's not up to the Canadians at all to bail you guys out. You guys started this shit. You guys got to bring it. Okay? I think it's disrespectful to the rest of the world that you guys have stopped fighting on Black Friday. Way back when, 3 years ago, okay, back when the forefathers, okay, were important, we saw a lot of good stuff happen on Black Friday. And the only argument we had was people holding their phones vertical instead of horizontal. Remember those days when life was much easier? America, we can do it. I have faith in you guys. I really does. I really do. Joe, that's just an excuse. Crime has gone through the roof here. People aren't doing Black Friday craziness. They are legitimately robbing stores in huge amounts. I know they are. Okay? But we can't have nice things if we're not brawling the shit out of each other on Black Friday. I get all worked up about this every year. I get all excited, and I just don't want to be let down again. Means something. Used to show all that was good about the United States. Thank you, Paramarv. Ange, no, I have not found my passport yet. No, Jeff Bezos wanted you to online shop. Unfortunately, Bezos is a culprit in this shenanigans, bending Black Friday. Where do I want to travel the most to? Number of places. I've never been overseas. I've never been out of North America. I think I'd like to see Central America, like Costa Rica, Guatemala in there. I'd like to see that. I would like to go, and this is true. I'm not just saying this because you're in New Zealand. I would like to go see the All Blacks play rugby. And I would like to see, it doesn't even have to be in an All Blacks game, but I would love to see a traditional haka up close and personal. I think they are some of the most emotional, I don't even know how to describe it. I think they're part of some of the most emotional pieces of humanity that are out there, and the meanings behind them are so different. But I would love to see a haka up close and personal. That would be awesome. Let's see here. What else would I like to see? If I had an unlimited budget, I'd like to play golf at Pebble Beach with my dad. That would be cool. I'd love to travel to Africa to see wild animals in the wild where they're supposed to be. My favorite Thanksgiving food, that's easy. Stuffing and Brussels sprouts. Yes, Oob, you would have gone right by my house. About 28 hours into your drive. What else? We call stuffing. Kurt M., you're welcome. Thank Dirty Filth for that. Yeah, she was a good guest. Filth has been pulling some radiant guests out of this hat recently. It's been awesome. I would like to see Thailand. I'd like to go to Thailand. Canadians don't put maple syrup on anything, on everything. That's just a rumor. Hi, Adventures with Beth. Been a while. Nice to see you. You can't buy milk bags where I live in BC anymore. It's only certain parts of the country you can do that still. Yes, this was freshly washed a couple of hours ago. Monday and Friday are hair washing days. Who is Spookles? Spookles is my right-hand person behind Spaced Out Radio. She is, she handles almost everything. Tell you what, Paramarv, you make it to Reno, I'll bring you some ketchup chips. I have 4 screens. This one, that one, that one, and that one. I'll show you. That one, that one, and this one. And now I put my camera. Gosh darn it. There we go. Oh, bring that up a bit. Oh, too much. How about there? Perfect. I can bring some all dress too. Yes, I look at 4. All right. Who's on tomorrow night? UFO television star Melissa Tittle will join us tomorrow night, talk about one of her latest videos, docs that's out there called Code 12. And yeah, big thank you to Thomas Fessler, our lone super chatter tonight. What do Canadians get in their tests? I don't understand. Hi, my brother Eugene. How are you? All right. Thanks, guys, for a great show. We'll do it all again tomorrow night. See you later.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.